Yeah, hi everyone. Great to have you here. My name's David. I'm going to take us through the IELTS speaking class today. Just wait for people to settle into the room. Um, IELTS speaking is an interactive activity that you do with your examiner, where you present your ideas over three sections. And we're going to go through those three sections today, part one, part two, and part three. So welcome everyone. Great to have you here. You're able to write into the chat box if you'd like to, and I'll try and respond. Um, Sometimes I'm not able to see what you write, but what we're going to do is practice the IELTS speaking task. So welcome everyone. Nice to have you here from all around the world. Before we begin, can you hear and can you see my screen? So in the chat box, which you can practice using, if you're able to access the chat box, can you type yes or no to indicate that you can hear and see? So see the slides and also hear the audio. Yep, let me know you're able to do that. Fantastic. Okay, nice one. So let me know that you're able to hear and able to see in the chat box. Now, when I look down, I'm just looking down at my phone. Brilliant. To see if I can see what you've written in the chat box. Beautiful work. Thanks, everyone. Welcome as you come into the room. Interact with the chat box if you need to ask questions. Otherwise, what you'll be doing is speaking on your side of the screen. So to encourage you to practice and continue to develop your skills with E2 language, do the practice tasks from the platform and get assessments, which is graded feedback from experienced markers who will listen to your recorded responses and give you feedback and advice. Also on the platform, you're able to access all your English skills. So that includes listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So take advantage of all the materials that are on the platform, and they will improve your communication skills overall and, of course, your score in the test. After doing about 50% of the course, try the mock test, which will test your skills across all the tests: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And that way you'll have an idea before test day of where you're likely to be placed in the test. So it's going to be encouraging and give you an insight into how well you're doing. Today's live class, we're going to look at give you an IELTS speaking overview. We're going to do a warm-up and vocabulary. We're going to look at methods and sample answers for part one and part two and part three. And we're going to try and get it done in under an hour. Let's see how we go. So say hello to everyone in the chat box. There'll be another large numbers of people in the room, and this will be a recording you can access later as well. Let's have an overview of IELTS speaking. It takes only 11 to 14 minutes, so less than 15 minutes you'll be with the examiner over three parts. Part one, you'll be asked personal questions like where do you live, do you study, do you like where you live. Part two will be an extended talk of 3 to 4 minutes, and part three will be questions that extend on part two. So really it's over in less than 15 minutes. In that 15 minutes, you need to demonstrate your excellence at speaking. Now, how do we know what to do? Well, you'll be graded on fluency and coherence, your ability to maintain a flow without hesitating or pausing, and joining your ideas together, sequencing them, your ability to use a range of vocabulary, your grammatical range and accuracy, and also your pronunciation. So just those four areas. And we'll see on this chart here where you are going to score the highest marks, which is up in the 8 and 9 region. So if you're aiming for a 7 or need a 7, aim for 8 and 9. And the examiner will give you a score for each of the criterion: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. It's a good idea to be familiar with these band descriptors because that is what the examiner is using to grade your speaking. They're not using their intuition, they're guided by this rubric, which enables them to accurately and objectify your speaking standards. So become familiar with that, read through and aim for the criteria that you need to demonstrate in order to achieve that grade. All good? Or that band score, as we like to say. Now let's get started. Let's take into our space the speaking part one. We're going to look at personal questions, and it takes about 4 to 5 minutes. Before part one begins, the examiner asks you questions to check your identity. So they may say or will say something like this: my name is David. Can you tell me your full name, please? What shall I call you? Can you tell me where you're from? Can I see your ID, please? Now, these are not assessed, but you will need to give your responses so they can identify that you are who you are taking the test. Now, in this session, you might like to grab your phone to record yourself if you've got a recording app on your phone. So please go ahead and find that. Let's get started. Now, a tip, an examiner tip is to give short factual answers here. This is not a scored part of the test, is when you're being asked for your identity. But once the questions, and we're going to run the identity test now. Are you ready? So here are the questions to identify you.
Good afternoon. My name is David. Can you tell me your full name, please? Can you tell me where you're from? Can I see your ID, please? Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so that's running our identity part of the test, which is just the beginning. Now, part one. Remember, there are 3 parts. The examiner will ask you up to 12 questions on 3 topics. The first topic are questions about what you do or where you live. So it's information you're familiar with and should feel confident about expressing. The second and third topic will be something like sports and hobbies, or cooking, or friends and computers, weather, clothing, travel, birthdays, photography, things you're familiar with, and you'll have access to your language access to be able to respond to those questions easily. For example, do you live in a big city or a small town? Or did you play sport as a child? First, we're going to activate some vocabulary that you may use in these first questions. Can I ask you to brainstorm free time activities and what you do when we collect things? So either typing in the chat box or writing down on a piece of paper in front of you some vocabulary related to free time and collecting. Awesome. So it's a good idea to recollect your latent vocabulary so we're able to use it in this task. For example, these words: pottery, gardening, yoga, relaxing, sport, gym, library, movies, unwind, hectic, sociable, catch up with friends, unwind, switch off, hiking, knitting, stamps, coins, teddy bears, antiques, toys, collectibles, rare, unique ornaments, expensive, shells, fun, jars, one of a kind, objects, brass, tin, model cars, minimalism. All right, so the words that you're going to actively use in responses to these prompts coming up shortly. All right, first of all, a quick quiz. Can you add into the blanks the words? Now, we're just going to allow that to happen very quickly. So read over the questions and imagine or say out loud the words that fill those blanks. I have a number of, my collection of china. When I go home, I really enjoy unwinding. My schedule these days is so. Okay, here we go. Let's check those thoughts. I have a number of unique pieces of furniture. My collection of china ornaments has become very valuable. When I get home, I really enjoy unwinding by doing my pottery. I will be traveling in the new year when we have decided to learn a new language. My schedule these days is so hectic. All right, so accessing high-level vocabulary to make sure that you're scoring in the 7 and above band. Now, if you've been studying the course, you would have learned the methods and techniques, but we're going to review them in our session here. Give your opinion, provide details, give contrast, compare past to present, present to future, and give reasons. ORE, opinion, reason, examples. PPF, past, present, and future. So when we use ORE, opinion, reason, examples, we extend our answers in part 1 and 3. And PPF, when we're telling a longer story, we're going to refer to the past, the present, and the future, and use a grammatical range, meaning a range of verb tenses and sentence structures, in order to achieve that 7 and 8 band. All right, let's hear them in action. So, question 1, do you think you have enough free time? Here's a model answer.
Do you think you have enough free time?
Not really. Not these days. I'm a full-time student and I work part-time. So my schedule has been really hectic. I barely have time to catch up with my friends. But when I was back home in high school, I had so much free time and I used to be really sociable. I kind of miss those days.
Okay, so what did she
Do you
do?
think you
She provided details, compared past to present, and therefore she's likely to achieve a range in the 7 and 8 band. Let's have a look at question number 2 of part 1.
What do you enjoy doing when you have free time? What do you enjoy doing when you have free time?
When I do get a moment to myself, I hate to admit it, but I just love watching a good series or an old movie on Netflix. It's such a perfect way to unwind and switch off. Having said that, I've been planning to go hiking next week when we have a term break. We're going to hike up a mountain. I forget the name, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Beautiful. So what did she do that's going to give her the score that she wants? She provided details, meaning gives examples. She gave reasons, supporting her main ideas. So she doesn't just make a simple statement, she illustrates and fills in her ideas, her opinions with reasons and examples. Awesome. She also used future and past tenses. Present and future. Yeah, future and present tenses in order to demonstrate a variety of grammar. So here's the third question, and we'll just identify what she uses. Remember, ORE, opinion, reason, examples. Provide contrasts and compare past to present and present to future. Awesome. It's your turn to answer the same questions and use the methods to extend your responses. Are you ready? All right, this is what you're aiming to do in your responses as you respond to the questions. There'll be 3 questions. Good luck. And remember to speak out loud once you've heard the question. The idea is to hear yourself responding to the questions. Here we go.
Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about free time. Do you think you have enough free time? What do you enjoy doing when you have free time? What did you do on your last day off?
Brilliant. Okay, now hopefully you're developing confidence by giving opinion, reason, and examples, and using a variety of verb tenses, past, present, and future. Now we're going to listen to a candidate answer 3 more questions and identify what methods does she use. So type in the chat box her 4th question. Are you ready? This is the question and her response.
Did you collect anything when you were a child?
Not really. My best friend did though. She had this unbelievable collection of ornaments, little china animals, and people. I was so jealous of her collection, and we used to spend a lot of time arranging them and cleaning them. Although it wasn't mine, I guess I felt like a co owner of her collection in a way.
Awesome. Did you identify what method she uses? Because they're the methods you will use too to achieve an 8 band in your response.
Did you
She provided details and she gave contrasts. Awesome. Here's another example of her response. What kinds of things do people like collecting in your country?
What kinds of things do people like collecting in your country?
I can't think of anything in particular these days. Maybe technology, devices. But when I was growing up, I remember that stamp collecting and coin collecting were big things. Oh, and CDs too. I don't think people really do that anymore now that it's all online.
Beautiful. So we can see what she's done. She's had an opinion, she's given reasons, examples, and she's contrasted past
What
to
kind?
present. Yeah. That's what she's good at. So that's why she will score well. Okay, we'll skip through her next one because now it's your turn to answer the same questions and use the methods to extend. Are you ready? You know your methods? Apply them. Here we go.
Did you collect anything when you were a child? What kinds of things do people like collecting in your country? Would you like to collect anything in future?
Awesome. Okay, hopefully you're going well. Remember, you've only got a limited amount of time to answer these questions, but you need to do it by demonstrating your language skills by extending your answers and giving a range of vocabulary and grammar, maintaining fluency and coherence, and having correct pronunciation. Awesome. Okay, I won't do one because I want you to keep practicing in the short time that we've got. Now we're going to move on to part 2, the basics of part 2. You're given a task card, or which will literally be a piece of paper that they will hand to you. You'll be given a minute to prepare and take notes. You'll speak for 2 minutes, and then the examiner will ask you 1 or 2 follow-up questions. So the task card will look like what you can see on the screen. For example, talk about a time when you felt happy, and please say, and then there'll be dot points. What made you happy, where you live, who was there with you, and why you felt happy about this. So who, what, where, when, and why questions. Yep. And you're going to write on the piece of paper that the examiner will give you your ideas that you're going to use in this section. Now, it's a good idea to come up with a plan and know what it is you're going to say in advance to some extent. Of course, you will be making it up while you're speaking, but if you follow your initial thoughts as a guide, you're likely to maintain coherence and sense, basically. You'll make sense of the questions rather than be in a state of constant creativity while you're speaking. So write down your thoughts before you speak and let them be a guide. All right. Now, there are several versions and approaches to this second section 2. First version is to use a PPF, or a past, present, and future approach. So tell 3 separate stories about the past, present, and future in relation to the prompt. You can talk about a time in the past, about something that made you happy, something that makes you happy now, and something that makes you happy in the future. Or you can tell one story about events from the past that have influenced the present and things you are likely to do with those events in the future. So, one continuous narrative from past, present, and future, or three separate narratives incorporating events from the past, events from the present, and events from the future. Yeah. Now, the reason you do that, the why, is because it will help you demonstrate grammatical range and accuracy, which will lead you into the 8 band. The traditional method is to start with a short introduction and then use the dot points on the task card to structure your talk. So you follow through the dot points or the bullet points in order as they appear on the card. The issue is that it's hard to keep extending on those dot points. And once you've answered the dot point, where do you go from there? So that's why it's a good idea to use past, present, and future. And when we speak, we want to introduce an idea and extend it. So we don't need a list of new ideas every second sentence. What instead we might do is to make a statement and then extend on that. For example, if you went into a restaurant and ate a meal, describe the restaurant, describe the table, describe the meal. We're interested in that information. And when it's your personal information, you will speak fluently and you will encourage the examiner to listen and follow what you're saying. So interest the examiner with situations, with examples and reasons and extensions of ideas in the events that you introduced into your story. Part 2 is a little like a storytelling exercise where you're going to speak for 2 minutes about a topic. All right. So we're going to advance and extend, talk about past, present, and future, but you can also practice which of these 2 methods suits you the best. The range of grammar, incorporating time periods in the past, present, and future, or following through the logic of the dot points on the card. Up to you. So practice both of those methods, but choose one for today. Are you ready for a quick grammar quiz? Okay, in this case, I want you to choose the correct option. So we're programming ourselves for grammatically correct sentences. Ready? Read through and say out loud what you think is the correct answer. Beautiful. Now, you'll know a lot of this already. And if you don't, it's a reminder that it's a good idea to review verb tenses. I'm going to talk. Let me start by saying I've always been. I used to read. I'd seen The Lord of the Rings. I've never considered reading. I felt a bit daunted. Having read them all now, brilliant. So you're familiar with the verb forms and the sounds of those verb forms. So you're looking at the structure and also the meaning, and you're getting used to using a variety of verb forms in your speaking so you can hit that 8 band. Let's practice. Are we ready? Okay, now topic, you're going to be given a task card. Follow the instructions on the screen. Speak out loud and maintain fluency for 2 minutes. Okay, watch the clocks. Don't forget to take notes. Have you got a pen and paper handy? Are you ready? Let's get started.
Now, I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you speak, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make notes if you wish. Here's a pen and paper for your notes, and here's your topic. Please don't write on it. I'd like you to talk about a series of books that you have read. All right. Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when time is up. Can you start speaking now, please? Thank you. Do you generally like reading?
Awesome. Okay, now hopefully you maintain fluency and coherence all the way through that. It's fun to practice, isn't it? And you're going to get good at it. If you did record yourself, remember to listen to your recording after class to hear what your fluency is like, to hear your word choices, to hear how you develop ideas and recognize how you might be able to improve as well. Now we're going to move on to IELTS Speaking Part 3. Remember, it's a discussion as an extension of Part 2, and it takes about 4 to 5 minutes. You'll be asked 3 to 8 related questions on the presentation from Part 2. So you've generated some ideas. Now we're going to extend those ideas in this Part 3. Don't forget, if you don't know much about the topic, it doesn't matter. It's not an IQ test. You don't have to be Einstein. You're speaking from your experience, and your experience and opinions is what is most interesting. So it's a language test on what language you can use and how you can develop your ideas or follow through on your ideas by referencing things you've already said, by using synonyms and not repeating yourself, by demonstrating an understanding of communicating an event. So they general. They also become general and abstract. So they're not personal. We're talking about things that happen in the world and observations that you've made based on the ideas that were central to Part 2. So, it's, in your opinion, what are good qualities of a good leader, for example, if Part 2 was about leadership? All right, let's practice. Okay, are we ready? Now, don't forget to record yourself if you've got a recording device so that you can listen and then observe your own speaking styles and working out how you can improve them for this test. Okay, here we go. Are we ready?
We've been talking about a series of books you've read, and I'd like to ask you 1 or 2 more questions related to this. Let's talk about reading. At what age should children start reading? How can parents help their children learn to read? How can children be encouraged to read more? Let's talk about popular books and movies. What makes a book become a bestseller? How different are movie adaptations from books?
Okay, so we get used to the length of time, the clock, which tells us the limit of how much time we've got, but also get used to developing ideas as we're speaking. So there are the questions you responded to, yeah? Well done. Now remember to include the keywords from the prompt, use synonyms where possible, and to advance and extend your responses by giving reasons and examples as well. Cool. All right. Now we're going to reflect on what you did well. Yep. And you're going to remember what you set out to do and what did you achieve. What did you find difficult? What did you set out to do and get stuck with? Yeah. So what do you need to work on and how can you work on it? Cool. So here are the criteria that the examiner is listening for, yep, and you're aware of and working towards. So fluency and coherence, you're going to try to maintain fluency without hesitating. We're going to use a range of connectives or discourse markers like and then, firstly, secondly. Because of that, as a result, I found that, so we're linking our ideas or sequencing our ideas by marking that for the listener. and developing your topics fully. You're using a range of vocabulary. So we're stimulating ourselves with vocabulary by reading and listening all the time so that we can add to our knowledge base of what words to use when. And in fact, we're using colorful language where possible, so it's descriptive for the listener. And we're paraphrasing using chunks of information to express complex thoughts effectively. We're using a grammatical range and accuracy, including sentence length and structures, as well as grammar range, past, present, and future. And we're trying to create as many error-free sentences as possible. So we're aware of what we're saying as we're saying it, which sometimes means we need to slow down but maintain fluency. And of course, we're listening and using and imitating the intonations of the English language. Which words do we emphasize and stress? The content words, the syllables within words as well. We're using connected speech, so we're connecting consonants to vowels where appropriate, and we pronounce all sounds correctly. All right. More practice can be had off the platform, yeah? So do the practice tasks and the assessments to get feedback. Practice all your skills so that you progressively get better. Register and join our live classes and participate as often as you can. Take a mock test before your real test. And for those students who are already signed up, invest in your future by logging in and booking a one-to-one tutorial or participating in the small group classes. Thanks for joining, everyone. It's going to be fabulous to see you in those events. And thank you for turning up. Thank you for participating. Good luck with your studies and look forward to seeing you very soon. All right. Best of luck. And see you in some more live classes soon. Bye for now.